bus stop at the corner of Ogons and Godfrey Avenues in the West Oak Lane community in Philadelphia needs to know that this office is heartbroken and committed to helping victims, witnesses, and survivors in every way possible with reference to that shooting. This is a very, very active investigation as we speak, with developments last night, developments today, and very intense work going on to solve this crime. But that is, of course, only a part of the job of this district attorney's office. Our CARES unit, which is the Crisis Assistance Response and Engagement for Survivors unit, an innovation brought originally to this office by Movita Johnson-Harrell, who is here today, was deployed to Einstein Medical Center to begin intense peer crisis engagement with the co-survivors of the 17-year-old homicide victim from that shooting. Our Victim Witness Services unit will work collaboratively with external victim service agencies to ensure that each non-fatal shooting victim, and there are 4, is extended the necessary services and resources on their journey to physical and emotional healing. G. Lamar Stewart, who, as many of you know, is not only a police officer and a pastor, but our chief of community engagement and government affairs, went to the scene himself on behalf of the DA's office shortly after the shooting occurred to make sure that all of our public safety colleagues and partners in the Philadelphia Police Department and in SEPTA Police had direct and necessary resources from the DA's office to support their investigation. He and his team will also be working closely with Council President Kenyatta Johnson, Council Member Cindy Bass, who serves the 8th Council District where the shooting took place. State elected officials and local community-based and faith-based organizations are working with us as well, and we will support them to ensure that the school community impacted by this horrific and senseless shooting receive the necessary support for their parents, teachers, and most importantly, their students. In addition to the assigned detectives, whose names I will not identify at this time, I do want to thank Inspector Nick Smith from Northwest Police Division. He is the commanding officer there. I also want to thank Captain Maisha Massey, and that is spelled M-Y-E-S-H-A, last name M-A-S-S-E-Y, and the women and men of the 35th Police District, women and men of PPD's Homicide Division and SEPTA Police, who responded to the shooting, transported victims as immediately as possible to Einstein, comforted neighbors, checked in on a nearby daycare. Thank you for your work. And now let me be pretty clear. We are working very closely to make sure that those responsible are caught and that they have the severe consequences that they fully deserve. Anyone who has information on the whereabouts, the identities, the circumstances of this shooting, we ask that you contact the Philadelphia Police Homicide Division at 215-686-3334. Every single tip, every single piece of information matters. You can remain anonymous if that's what you wish, and we will offer appropriate services to you, including witness protection, to anyone who assists in bringing these suspects into custody, so that we do not forget. This is a situation in which we have a juvenile who has now lost his life. We have a 70-year-old woman we have a 70-year-old woman with a grocery cart on a bus who was struck in the head with a bullet and survived, most likely because of the thickness of the glass and the movement of the bus. We have another person on this bus, and I'm not going to say who's a medical worker who spends time caring, among others, for victims of shootings. We have other young people shot in this process. This is an absolute outrage. It will be solved. Those responsible will be vigorously prosecuted and get the just and appropriate consequences in this case. And we will not stop every effort to prevent this from happening in the future, whether a potential shooting revolves around some notion of retaliation or revenge and is specific, or whether we are dealing simply with broader issues, the prevalence of guns, the availability of, how shall I put it, aftermarket hardware that can modify those guns. We will not stop our efforts to prevent the next victimization, in addition to making sure there are consequences for this one. Now, I want to give you a big picture and a preview of some points we're going to cover in today's press conference. Going into 2024, my office and I had several New Year's resolutions, plans to see what we could do to improve operations and work in our office, as well as our collaboration with all other governmental partners and all community partners. Any healthy organization is constantly in search of self-improvement. No government entity should try to do less than that. Since 2018, we've worked very hard on recruitment, retention strategies, developing sensible and data-informed, community-informed policies that we modify where appropriate. We've worked very hard to increase training and coaching for our extremely capable trial attorneys, to improve our engagement and relationships with community, faith-based law enforcement, and government partners, just to name a few areas. Regardless of all that effort, we have to remain introspective. We have to own what we're not doing well enough, and we have to try to improve it. And one of those central areas where we must remain laser-focused, even as we see some improvement in data around shootings, we have to remain laser-focused on direct services for witnesses, survivors, and co-survivors of crime. We have to remain laser-focused on not only what we do within this office, an office where the number of personnel dedicated to this work grew from 29 to up to 58 at one point during the last 6 years. It's now a little bit below 58. We have to remain focused on doing better all the time, even if, thank goodness, we are seeing fewer shootings and future homicides. And in order to achieve that goal, we will be making two major announcements very shortly. First, I want to acknowledge people who are here, though. We have with us Robert Listenby, First Assistant DA. ADA Joanne Pescator, Chief of the DAO's Homicide Non-Fatal Shooting Unit, who has probably lost sleep one more time over one more incredibly important investigation. We have ADA Deborah Watson-Stokes, who wears many hats, but of course one of them has to do with projects around gun violence. Phyllis Gibson is here, a co-survivor of homicide. Kim Burrell, also a co-survivor of homicide. Danielle Oglesby, co-survivor of homicide. We have Cheryl Pedro, co-survivor of homicide. We have Therese McCleary, co-survivor of homicide. We have Kimberly Kamara, co-survivor of homicide. Tamara Kayoum, victim advocate. Movita Johnson-Harrell is here, and she is, among other things, also a co-survivor of homicide, sadly, more than once. And we have Mark Pittman, who is a peer crisis responder for the DAO's CARES unit. You should know he's here on his day off after just providing response to the SEPTA shooting yesterday. I'm not going to dwell as long as we often do on the numbers around gun violence and homicide for the simple reason that survivors who are here can't take much solace in numbers. But I will briefly mention, year-to-date homicides, 52. As of midnight on the 4th of March. Same day last year, it was not 52, it was 78. Same day The year before, it was not 52, it was 89. If we look at the number of homicides between the 23rd and 29th of February, we see 5. And we see 17 non-fatal shootings, which is roughly about half of what we saw at the worst part of the pandemic. If we look to gun possession or gun violence related incidents, we see 87. Of them, we see 81 arrests made by law enforcement, and this office charged 80 out of those 81 cases. It is now my pleasure to talk about our first announcement, and that is the relaunch of the DAO's Crime Victim Advisory Council. That is Crime Victim Advisory Council. Crime Victim Advisory Council existed and was very helpful, and in my opinion, very supportive of the work of this office prior to the pandemic. Obviously, the pandemic interfered with a whole lot of things, and that was one of them. But it is time to reconstitute the Crime Victims Advisory Council, not only because we should have it with us, meeting with us, advising, giving us input on a monthly basis for as long as we are in this office, but also because there will be intense work over the next 3 months to figure out what and where and how we can do better when it comes to victims, witnesses, and survivors. The Crime Victims Advisory Council, as I mentioned, will meet with the executive team at the DA's office monthly. The group will provide recommendations to the DAO's executive team on policy and best practices in serving witnesses, survivors, and co-survivors. The group will assist the DAO's executive team with building upon existing relationships that exist with victim services agencies outside of the office and advocates across the city of Philadelphia. For anyone who is interested in applying for the Crime Victims Advisory Council, let me explain the qualifications. Number one, members must be a survivor or co-survivor of crime. Number two, they must live in Philadelphia. Number three, they must be able and committed to attend the meetings that occur monthly and to work collaboratively with the council in fulfilling its mission. Anyone who is interested in applying for the Crime Victims Advisory Council should do so as soon as possible. Email the DAO's Chief of Staff, who is Jennifer Lynn, that's L-I-N, and the DAO's Chief of External Engagement, and that is G. Lamar Stewart, S-T-E-W-A-R-T. Their emails are jennifer.lynn, L-I-N, @phila.gov. And for Mr. Stewart, it's capital G, capital L, G. Lamar.Stewart, S-T-E-W-A-R-T, @phila.gov. It is my intention to get this group up and running very quickly. We will close applications on the 15th of March. We will more formally announce the full team before April the 1st. But I'm telling you right now, don't be surprised if members who apply and are already accepted are meeting even before March the 15th, because we're not going to slow down on this. The second major announcement that I am happy and proud to be able to make is that we are bringing in a consultant to advise the DA's office over the next 90 days. That is a consultant well known to us. It is Movita Johnson Harrell, who not only invented the idea of the CARES unit and then obtained grant funding at the time that she joined the office back in 2018, but when she joined the office, she became the head of our Victim Witness Services Union and also of our CARES unit at that time. And although Movita Johnson Harrell is not coming back at this time as a full-time employee, she is coming back as a consultant with a remarkable record of achievement when it comes to work with victims and witnesses. She will be uniquely positioned in terms of her knowledge of personnel here, her knowledge of policies, to find any gaps there may be in compliance, to spot any changes or improvements in the policies that exist within this office, and to do everything we can to build even stronger bridges to hospitals, to community organizations, to advocacy groups, so that we are all collectively able to collaborate and provide the best possible services to victims and witnesses and survivors. It is now my pleasure to invite 4 different people to speak, one after the other. I'm not going to get up in between these speakers because they have a lot more interesting things to say than I do. But I am extremely grateful that they are here. I appreciate the pain that they go through daily and have gone through as the consequence of losing a loved one, or sadly, in some cases, even more than one loved one. And I think that they deserve our full attention. I will tell you in advance that there are all kinds of questions I'm happy to answer in other contexts, but today is about victims, witnesses, survivors, and it is about what Danielle Oglesby first, Phyllis Gibson second, Cheryl Pedro third, and Movita Johnson Harrell fourth have to say above all else. It's my pleasure to call forth Danielle Oglesby, a co-survivor.
Thank you. Good morning. Again, my name is Danielle Shaw Oglesby, and my daughter, Dominique Oglesby, was shot and killed on March 18th of 2018, just a couple months shy of graduating from Penn State with honors. Dom was truly a gem. She was God-fearing, she was smart, she was beautiful, she was goal-driven, and did I say, very smart. But sadly, I stand here before you all, a survivor, living with PTSD. The traumatic effects are damaging, especially to know that at any point, my grief can completely take over me. And it is so disheartening to know that we have to face that and go through that on a daily basis. But that's just really the tip of the iceberg of what we go through. It is of extreme importance that us survivors have the support that we need. Some of us survivors, some of these survivors that I've met have no support, don't have a system. So with that being said, CVAC would be much needed and much appreciated. Just for those, not just for those individuals that don't have anybody, but for us too that have a strong village. But we need support. You know, we need policies in place to assure survivors are not re-traumatized, because again, we are living with PTSD. We need people to make sure that there are clear communications about criminals, about their release, about different things that happen to them, for us to not be, again, re-traumatized. Because imagine walking outside and seeing a person that took your loved one. Just imagine that, and not knowing that they were out, and not knowing that they were amongst you in the street. Very traumatic, lifelong situation. And I just say that thank you for bringing Movita in. Thank you for bringing her in, because she is who I look at as a pillar of strength. Because she hasn't been through it once, she's been through it 2 times. But she's still she's still standing, she's still strong, she's still fighting for us. And the reason that is the best choice is because she's not only showed that she can and prove what she can do, she is also a victim and a co-survivor. So I think that that speaks a great deal to what she can do. And that's just it. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Phyllis Gibson, and 14 years ago, my youngest son, John, was murdered. He was 38 years old, and he worked for the city. His childhood friends robbed and killed him. And although I am a victim advocate, That day, it did not matter. I was the mother of a murder victim. I'm a survivor. The services that were provided to me by the DA's office CARES unit saw me through some dark days. They came to my house to comfort me. They left me with resources, and at that time, everything was a blur. Advocate called again to check on my safety and to remind me to save all of my receipts for crime victims' compensation. My family was eligible for counseling, individual or group. They explained the court proceedings. If an arrest was made, the CARES advocates went to court with me and held my hand when the medical examiner's report was read. They kept me posted about the trial date. The advocate became part of my family because when I needed them, they were there. We do need this type of program to support mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, family members. Sometimes it might even be the neighbor next door who knew the child or the person before this happened. And the kind of support that we need with the resources we need under the leadership of Movita Harrell Johnson, or Johnson Harrell, I will say that it's much needed and it is time for it.
Hello, yes. My name is Cheryl Pedro, and this is my son, Mario Pedro. He was murdered in 2015, February the 23rd. Mario's case is still unsolved. We really need this program. I was involved with it before, and we really need Marvita back. Marvita was there for me when everything first happened. She had been through a lot. Her father, her brother, her two sons. She is strength. She gives me strength. She gives me courage. She has helped me in more ways than she ever know. I'm glad they given her this job back, and we just need the support to be here for one another in all areas of all this murder that's going on in the city. We need one another. We need each other in these organizations. We need each other, period. Yes, sir.
Good morning, everyone. So most of you know me. My name is Movita Johnson Harrell. I am a 5-time co-victim of homicide. I saw my father murdered March 30th, 1975. I was 8 years old. July 1st, 1991, my only brother was murdered over a girl as his 5-year-old son sat in his lap. January 13, 2011, I did everything I could to protect my children, including moving them from Philadelphia to get them away from the gun violence. January 13, 2011, my children came into Philadelphia. Two boys walked up to the car. I had just bought my daughter and put 4 bullets in my son Charles because they thought he was someone else. A year later, January 1st, 2 years later, 2013, my first cousin's only child, Stephen Kyrie Johnson, about to graduate Fox Temple School of Business, went to a New Year's Eve party that he didn't even want to go to. 2 boys got into a beef over a girl. He stepped in between the 2 boys to make peace. One of them turned around, put the gun to his chest, and pulled the trigger. March 5th, 2021, my last surviving son. Who stood on the front line of gun violence with me for a decade. Went to California for a long weekend with some friends. They went into a strip mall in Compton. Someone ran into the strip mall, shooting 6 people, and put a bullet in my son's right eye. And I lost my last surviving son. When Charles was murdered, CARES was created. CARES came out of my kitchen because my family is so well known in Philadelphia. When people would get shot, they would say, you gotta call Movita and Yancey, they will help you. We created CARES so that we responded immediately when someone was shot in Philadelphia, just to support the families through the worst thing that could ever happen in their life. We often don't talk about the PTSD that Danielle just talked about. Well, as a direct result of my son Charles being shot, my 19-year-old daughter developed unmanageable hypertension. Over 9 years, her hypertension killed her kidneys, and my daughter went into end-stage renal failure at 28 years old. So yes, we have to have good victim services, because good victim services and good victim services policies will create less victims. We need less victims. So I am so excited to introduce the relaunch and the reintroduction of the Crime Victims Advisory Council, where victims will be creating policy specifically for victims. We're already talking about closing the gap with OVA and the Board of Pardons so that when victims of defendants are released, people are notified so that they won't be afraid to walk the streets not knowing if they're going to walk into the person that killed their loved one. Just simple common sense policies, and just the fact that this district attorney wants to help. He wants victims to help in creating the policy that will best guide the line staff and best guide victim services staff. I am also grateful to accept the opportunity to advise this district attorney's offices and victim services on direct care and referral services that will improve how victims, witnesses, and survivors are engaged and treated during the most difficult times of their lives. So I'm happy to be back here in an advisory position to help improve the services that this office already offers to Philadelphia at large. Thank you.
Thank you to Danielle Oglesby, Phyllis Gibson, Cheryl Pedro, Movita Johnson-Harrell for your touching, important words. At this point, we are going to go to Q&A. I do want to say just one thing before we go there. Number one, Yancey. You might have heard that name. Well, Yancey is Movita's husband, and my goodness, has he been there for this struggle from the very beginning, even though he's not here today because he is very busy doing construction at a high level, which he's been doing for quite some time. I want to make sure we do not lose sight of Yancey. Point two, I know that some of you may have questions about the fact that Movita Johnson-Harrell was convicted of some financial activity through her foundation, did a very short period of time in custody as a result of that. This was a prosecution by the AG's office. That, of course, is over. That sentence is served. That price is paid. And guess what? Turns out she's not perfect, neither am I, and neither are you. That's the reality. Those offenses had nothing to do with her work while she was here, and the work that she did here was just fabulous. If it was an office that just wanted to play politics, well, then maybe we wouldn't have her here. But what we want to do is serve victims and witnesses, and we want the best people to do it, regardless of whether they're actually human, which I am, and Movita is, and even Jeff Cole is, and I love Jeff Cole. We are all human. We are all human, and we have all made mistakes. And this office has not in the past hesitated to employ juvenile lifers who, despite the fact that at a young age had committed homicides, came into this office, did amazing work, and have now gone out and advanced to do even more amazing work. We have not hesitated to employ an exoneree. Somewhere around here is Curtis Krasner, who did a hell of a long time for somebody else's crime. Where appropriate, where the people who can deliver the services have made a mistake in the past, well, that means they can sit in my living room, because so have I. All right, let us go to Channel 3 CBS, Nathan Silvas.
Just what, the I-76 thing with Ms. Morrison, can you just tell us where you are with that? Are there charges pending? Is the PSP trooper going to face charges?
Let me do this if I may. I'm happy to answer your question at the end of this event. I'll step over there and I'll speak to you before we're done here. But I want to make sure the focus here stays on the topic, which is victim witness services. Channel 6 ABC, we have Annie McCormick with us.
I have an actually question.
Okay. I'd be happy to do that at the end if you don't mind. Thank you for that. All right, Crisbel Mora.
Mi pregunta, como siempre, en español. Tengo, además de este tema, otras preguntas que les puedo hacer luego.
Okay.
Pero sobre el programa, quisiera saber cuál fue el motivo por el cual se detuvo en 2018. Y también en español, ¿qué impulsa el relanzamiento este año 2024?
Okay. Estamos aquí para anunciar que estamos relanzando un grupo de avisores que nos van a permitir entender mejor la situación de víctimas, de esos que sobreviven, de testigos en casos penales. Para servirles mejor tenemos que saber lo que piensan, y por eso en este momento, cuando está disminuyendo el pandémico, vamos a comenzar de nuevo con un grupo de avisores de la comunidad sobre servicios para víctimas.
¿Por qué se detuvo en 2018?
¿Por qué se detuvo? You mean why did it stop in 2018? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm a gringo. I'm doing my best here.
It's better than my English, don't worry.
I don't know, I think your English is pretty good. Tuvimos un grupo de este tipo por varios años. Comenzamos en los 2018, pero vino el momento durante el pandémico cuando no pudimos proceder de la moda normal, y por eso estamos aquí para reconstituir el grupo.
Pero la pandemia empezó en 2020.
Sí. De veras, posiblemente no estoy explicando muy bien, ¿ok? Tuvimos el grupo en 18, nos ayudaron por un periodo de años, en medio del pandémico, no podían, pero tuvimos años del trabajo antes del pandémico, y estamos al punto donde podemos reconstituir el grupo. Okay, thank you. Doing my best here. I'm sorry. Última.
¿Cuáles son los requisitos para que una persona pueda sumarse al grupo y cuál es la fecha límite?
Sí, gracias. Ok. Primero, esos que quieren servir el grupo habrán sobrevivido un crimen. Segundo, tienen que vivir en Filadelfia. Tercero, tienen que asistir en las reuniones y el trabajo, que van a pasar a lo menos un día al mes. Cualquier persona que tiene interés, por favor, apliquen lo más pronto posible. Y los dos emails que pueden usar son jennifer.lin@phila.gov, that's JenniferLin.Phila, phila.gov. Y también G. Lamar Stewart, that's GLAMART@phila.gov. Okay, thank you. All right. Mr. Cole.
I have questions on other topics as well, a little later if I could.
Okay, happy to do that. Of course. Mr. McDonald, and then we will. Afterwards. Okay. Movita, did you have another comment?
Can I have the mothers join me up here? This is why we do this work, because we don't want another mother or family to live with this. It's a nightmare that you never wake up from. Therese, say her name.
Tamara.
Kim, say his name.
Daryl, pray.
Danielle, say her name.
Dominique Oglesby.
Phyllis, say his name.
John Scott Day.
Cheryl, say his name.
Mario Pedro.
I know all of their children intimately. Charles Andre Johnson and Dante Johnson. Thank you.
All right, given that you're all set up and we've actually completed this press conference a little more quickly than expected, if there are any additional questions, to the extent I'm able to answer them, I can just do them from here. So let me see. I think we were starting with Annie McCormick. Is that right? Did you?
I have a question about Act 40. I saw the amicus briefs that Jane sent out today. In light of the SEPTA shooting yesterday, it seemed initially the message that was being sent was it was a partisan issue, but now that our Democratic governor signed it, House Democrats also voted for it, I see your argument that you were the one that was voted into office by the taxpayers, so you should be the prosecutor. However, I'm wondering if there's a bigger picture and a happy medium that maybe could be brought from this. Whereas one idea that's been floated around that I've heard was maybe a SEPTA court, similar to years and years ago when I used to cover the Eagles, they had court in Veterans Stadium. Wondering if that special prosecutor would in fact lift some of the burden off of your office. If there's a way that you could come to a happy medium, is that something that you would ever think about?
So number one, I don't know a better group of prosecutors than the ones who work with me. I don't. These are remarkable, capable people who work around the clock and frankly, not interested in second best. Having said that, this is also a matter in litigation. I understand that a whole lot of voters have a whole lot to say, but I'm not going to comment further at this time. Let me see. Who else had questions? I think, Chris Bell, did you have one that was?
Yes. Sobre el incidente de SEPTA, su voz se quebró en cierto momento dando la información. Específicamente, ¿por qué con estas víctimas su fibra humana se toca mucho más que los cientos de casos que llegan a su oficina durante pues, el año?
El caso me duele, de veras. Me causa pena pensar en los niños allí, con sus padres, con sus maestros. Me duele. Y por eso la voz quebró.
¿Cuál es el compromiso de DAO para hacer la resolución de este caso también?
Well, it's, I'm sorry, I didn't understand it. What's the compromise to resolve which case? Do you mean the prosecution of the shooters? I mean, no vamos a comprometer con personas que están en un tiroteo o que están disparando. Estamos aquí para arrestar, para proseguir y para asegurar que tengan las consecuencias necesarias. Obviamente, lo más importante es que impedimos la próxima victimización, pero no hay compromiso con personas que matan a jóvenes y disparan de esa moda. All right. Yes, sir. Mr. Silvas.
English too, because that was a good question.
You speak Spanish.
No, I just understand.
Okay. Do you mean the second question?
Yes,
or-
the second.
Okay, so the second question is, I understood it, and I must admit, gringo que soy, that I didn't necessarily get it 100% right. But what I understood was I was being asked, is there any sort of a compromise or working out the situation with reference to this SEPTA shooting? And my answer was there is no compromise with people who shoot juveniles and kill them. There's no compromise with people who put a bullet through the window of a SEPTA bus and it strikes the head of a 70-year-old woman with a grocery cart. There's no compromise. These are people who will be arrested, and if we have to work around the clock to do it with our friends in the police department, we will do it. They will be vigorously prosecuted, and they will get the just and appropriate results. But obviously, at least as important is to do everything we can to prevent the next victimization, to prevent this kind of shooting from happening again. And that is where this city's improved, but still insufficient, investment in prevention, in community-based organizations, in public education, in all the things that turn young people away from this kind of activity remains incredibly important. That's kind of what I said, isn't it? Más o menos. Okay. All right, Mr. Silvas.
The I-76 situation, is Ms. Morrison or the PSP trooper facing charges? Where are you on that?
So we have received significant information from PSP, and this is very, very much an active investigation where we are trying to get all of the information. There are plenty of political things we could do. We're not interested in doing political things. We just want to get the truth. And once we have the whole truth, we will make a determination about whether someone or anyone should be facing criminal charges. All right, let me see. Did I miss someone? Mr. Cole, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yes.
Follow that. So, significant information. So do you have the dash cam video from the cruiser? State police say there is dash cam video. There is a recorder as well. It should be audio recorded. Do you have that?
We're not going to comment at this time. The equipment that state troopers have is a little bit different than the equipment that PPD has, but now is not the time for that. We will certainly have more information, I would say, by early next week.
Well, I mean, they don't have body cams. We know that. They say in 3 weeks they will. They did say there was a dash cam rolling. There was audio. You must want that. Have you seen that yet?
We want all the information that will tell us the complete truth, and that's what I can say at this time, Mr. Cole.
If I could just one more. There is video, obviously. We know that there was video rolling. We've all seen it. What do you make of what you see there?
What I make of it is that we need to be completely fair and completely even-handed to everyone involved in this incident. And once we have all the information, we will be well situated to say everything. I will say this, I think we'll have some of that a little sooner than we might have in a case where we need extensive forensics. This does not appear to be a case where we're going to have to send a whole lot of forensics out to faraway labs and wait for months. So I think that we will be able to give you robust answers to this fairly soon, within a few weeks.
Your spokesperson said that you're going to hold charging decisions until there is an even-handed investigation. Do you not believe the state police in the information they provided and the charges that they recommended were even-handed?
I believe in even-handed investigations. I believe we should be fair to people who are stopped, and we should be fair to the people who stop them, regardless of what their jobs are. That's what we intend to do. Mr. McDonald, did you have something?
Isn't there a conflict of interest here with your office handling a Philadelphia city official?
Interesting question. And I got to be honest, it's not something we thought about a whole lot. I don't think there is. I'm an independently elected person. I am not an appointee of the mayor, as is Ms. Morrison. I don't think that there is law that would establish that it is per se a conflict. I don't think that we can point to any kind of close personal relationship that is bothersome. So in my opinion, no. But I will say this, in light of your question, I'll go back and have some very smart lawyers in the law division take a look at it.
And a follow-up, her announcing that she is an employee of the city in the mayor's office, is that a questionable call?
I'll comment on that at a later time. I think that the people who have seen the publicly available video are able to contextualize that, and I'll let them draw their own conclusions.
Can I ask you about SEPTA, please? You said that the SEPTA shooting, you said that there are new developments overnight and this morning. Tell us what they are. Can you help us with what these are?
And also maybe ADA Pesca too.
Well, I will help out ADA Pescator, but by saying what I know she's going to say, because she and I have spoken about this at length. The answer is no. We're not in a position to tell more about that because it could affect the integrity and the quality of the investigation at this time. But I can tell you there's very, very vigorous activity by the Philadelphia Police Department There is a whole lot of work going on. We are part of that, and we intend to keep doing this with or without sleep until the people responsible are in custody.
Do you have the gun? Did they obtain the gun? Just really quickly, because I want to ask you about you talked about guns here, about gun possession, but do you have the gun in this case? Did police recover it?
We're not going to comment at this time. I am happy to tell you everything we know when we are farther down the road, but it is extremely important that we not in any way provide too many clues to witnesses who might not have integrity in their statements if we put it out there. All right, thank you very much. We appreciate all of your time.